The Burglar perk deck is not very good for Loud, but that sort of makes sense. It's the only perk deck with blatantly stated benefits for Stealth, which makes it even funnier that in the realm of Stealth, Burglar is still your worst option. I usually only look at Loud, but I think it's worth looking at the Stealth aspects just this once. Like I said, Burglar is the only perk deck with stated Stealth benefits. Although there are other perk decks that have uses in Stealth, none of them have cards with faster body bagging speed and faster pager answering, which are exclusive to Stealth. Knowing that, why is it that Burglar is the worst Stealth deck out of the common choices? Because bot boosts do everything Burglar does, but better. 20% faster bagging speed is cool and all, but having the quick ability on a bot is 25% faster interaction speed entirely, and this ability stacks to 75% with more bots. Burglar also allows you to lockpick 20% faster, but again, bot boosts do it better. The only interaction that bot boosts don't speed up is pager answering. But why answer pagers in 9 seconds when you can answer them in 10, and then have Yakuza movement speed or Hacker Pocket ECM, or Copycat with both? Burglar is a terrible option for Stealth, and there's no real getting around that. Although lockpick speed isn't Stealth only, it doesn't make the deck real helpful in Loud. What this deck is worth taking for in Loud is Dodge. Or I guess I should rephrase that the only thing saving this deck in Loud is Dodge. 30% dodge is the bare minimum I would consider a dodge build, since you can get 25 dodge on any deck while wearing the suit and getting dodge skills. Burglar with a suit has 35 by default, and whoop-de-doo. We've reached the peak of Burglar's abilities, because it's only downhill from here. Burglar has 10% faster crouched movement speed. In Loud, this is useless because just sprint. And in Stealth, this is useless because just sprint crouch jump. But actually, there is a reason to crouch everywhere instead of using conventional methods of getting around, being that Burglar gives you benefits while you're crouched. You have 20% lower priority. Isn't that great? No, it's actually pretty awful. The way the deck phrases it makes it seem like you can get this bonus while standing still, and you can also get it while crouching. Unfortunately, this is not the case, because you need to be both standing still and crouching simultaneously. But even if it didn't work like that, lower priority wouldn't be helpful. Let me give you a quick rundown of what I consider the most important elements of priority. Every player has a priority number, starting at 7 when the enemy can't see you, and going down to 2 when you're breathing down their neck. If the enemy was attacked by you within 5 seconds, priority is lowered by 2. If the enemy heard unsilenced fire from you within 3.5 seconds, priority is lowered by 1. Note that your priority can't go lower than 1, so even if you are shooting an enemy point blank, your priority is 1. Only now can we consider targeting chance, and it's not applied in the way that is all too simple. Whatever your multiplier is multiplies enemy interaction time and divides distance. Let's take our 20% less targeting from Burglar as an example. If you're within 6.25 meters, your priority is 2. If you're within 18.75 meters, your priority is 4, and if you're further than that, your priority is 6. If you've shot an enemy within 4 seconds, subtract 2. And if you've alerted an enemy within the past 2.8 seconds, subtract 1. At this point, the enemy will shoot whoever has a lower priority value, and if you are tied with someone else, then it will take the calculated distance value. As you can see, the difference between having this multiplier or not is largely useless, and really only comes into play when you sit there and let it. You could alert an enemy and then wait for 2.8 seconds to pass and then crouch by a teammate only for them to get shot, but if you want your teammates dead, the commando is far faster and more efficient. These are the bare essentials of what you need to understand about priority, but if you're interested in some details I skipped over and other nuances, check out this video by the Noli explaining in detail how every part of targeting works. Well, maybe crouching and standing still doesn't help, but you can get 20% faster armor regen by just standing still. How nice. No, this isn't nice either. First off, there's a hidden rule which says that you only get this bonus if you're standing still 1 second after an enemy shoots you. Second, this regen speed is just not useful. After an enemy shoots you, you jump into cover and wait for 1 second to get your faster armor regen speed, but what exactly do you need it for? You're already in cover. And that concludes Burglar's abilities. Useless stealth abilities, useless crouch benefits, useless armor regen, the bare minimum dodge for a dodge build, and 20% faster lockpicking speed. There's a good reason as to why Burglar is considered worse rogue, and that's because the only real benefit of both is dodge, of which Burglar simply has less. With that said, let's get on to some builds that make use, or at least try to make use, of this bad deck. Despite Burglar being hot fucking garbage relative to the other decks in the game, I'm quite fond of it. Yes, the 30 some dodge you get isn't a lot, but it's enough to be workable. I find that Burglar has a nice mix of challenge and effort to use, and that's what makes it a fun deck. Of course, people with less experience on Death Sentence may think otherwise, which is fair. If you know how to play dodge, you can work miracles in the eyes of public players, but I think I'll leave that conversation for the Rogue video. This build in itself is nothing special, just a basic health setup with an AR and SMG. You could consider changing the weapons here, because Lock and Load Ace for the Speed Pull AK-5 is over the top. But if you want to not spend those points, then just change the Uzi to a Speed Pull SMG. You'll find out throughout this video that there's no trick to making Burglar builds. They're really just quite straightforward. So the Amarok exists now, and it has no purpose at all. I guess you can kill Martial Marksman with it, but the 1000 damage cucks itself on Martial shields in a silly way. There's literally no reason to use this discount up that Payday 2 now has, which is impressive considering the absurd power of sniper rifles in this game. It somehow managed to have zero standout features, which is truly impressive. On the other hand, the Desert Fox. Insanely concealable, agile, hits all the breakpoints you need, and looks good while doing it. The only downside you can imagine it having is bad ammo economy because of low pickup, but considering Graze, you'll be fine unless you miss like 4 out of 5 shots. The Bernetti is also here, but really just for concealment. You can use it for dozers if you like, I found it kinda nice. You can also just remove the pistol skills and go for Sneaky Bastard to get more dodge. This build is Rogue for people who don't have the DLC for Rogue. Except Rogue isn't DLC, and I don't really know why you would use this build. Aside from the dodge, the only interesting part of Rogue is weapon swap speed, and yes, there are in fact other parts of Rogue. You can gain swap speed through Overkill Ace, and if we're there, we might as well grab a weapon to make use of the Overkill Ace, such as the Cavity. This build is good, but it has a teeny tiny little problem with it, honestly even hard to call a flaw, and it requires you to aim kinda good. Unlike the Desert Fox from the last build, hitting a shot with the Cavity leaves every enemy around it alive, and you soon to be dead. However, I find Overkill Ace setups to be some of the most entertaining, so I'm always willing to fight the uphill battle that is this build. Since Burglar is a stealth deck, we can make the bait and switch build just like I did for Hacker. Everyone knows the saying, if a joke isn't funny the first time, tell it again. Was that it? Maybe I'm misremembering. Anyway, since I made that video almost 2 years ago, holy shit, the Gecko pistol has been added. And it does everything that shotguns do in stealth, but better. Again, I don't actually play stealth, so I don't know how the pub landscape is saturated weapon-wise. Maybe this build won't fool anyone at all. But it did get me kicked once, even though it was for no 9 lives on DSOD rather than the build itself, and really that kinda worked out in the end anyway. So I'd call it a success. The Akimbo pistols are mostly for dozer clearing, because I tend to lose my ammo with them too fast to main them, which leaves me mashing the mouse button on the Gecko for the rest of the playtime. Other than that, don't forget to actually use your ECMs, they aren't just for show. Of the few things I glossed over in the priority explanation, I didn't mention that converts have much lower priority than players, but not sentries. Playing single sentry is weird, for more than one reason. It's sort of like playing without a deployable and with a deployable at the same time. There's also nothing particularly special about Burglar and sentries. It would really work the same for all decks for the reasons I went over in the priority section. However, carrying around a little sentry for whenever you need it in times of danger or need to interact with something is cool. You can also play with just third law aced instead of all the additional skills I added, but that would be more of a distraction sentry. With the skills I took, the sentry can be used to actually kill enemies, but experiment around and see what feels right. If you're fine with dropping the sentry for one interaction and picking it back up instantly, you don't really need to spend the other skill points. You could also use the AP to clear shields, I guess? At least after the violent incompetence that was the shotgun shock and awe change, you might as well. I certainly won't, because I'm using this build as a sort of announcement that I'll be using a mod to revert shotgun changes made by Denka, as well as damage range multipliers from now on. Just figured I'd be open about that, and if you want the mod, it will be linked in my mod list along with the rest of the cheats I use. And those are your roguelite builds. Burglar is not a good loud deck, and there's little reason to use it in stealth, but like I mentioned, it's kind of charming in its badness. Decks like Hitman or Yakuza are a chore to play, but Burglar is kind of cute. So how do you fix Burglar? You can't. The stealth elements are pointless because of bot boosts, buffing the dodge elements would encroach on other decks, and buffing the crouching to such an extent that crouching actually does something will make the deck unfun to play. To fix Burglar, you really just have to start over and try again, which is no fault of Burglar's, but just a product of the game changing over time. I would say make sure to vote in the poll for the next deck, but we've reached the end of the polls. The next deck will be Rogue, followed by Leech and Copycat. I'll see you then.